I continue now to read this biography that was printed for me. The first one is called Glen Bio 1. This will be called Glen Bio 2. Then Glen began a long and fruitful position as minister of music in Regalsville, Pennsylvania, United Church of Christ. There, with Reverend Kurt Sandrock, he served for almost 10 years as permanent organist choir director. He provided music and choir direction with additional private music lessons. There, he also led performances of liturgical dance and major oratorios such as the Four-Way Requiem. In addition, he took over the adult Sunday school class, leading them in Old and New Testament studies for many years. His wife Patricia was featured as soloist in many concerts, both in this church and others. Together they helped raise money for organ transplants with their concerts. Glen played for weddings and funerals and other celebrations, as well as special programs for the American Bicentennial. While serving as Minister of Music in Regalsville, he entered the Master of Music program in Trenton State College in Trenton, New Jersey. There he was privileged to study with Dr. Lawrence Taylor from England in the field of musicology, the scientific study of music history and practice, including cultural differences and world relationships. This studied a wide field of musical styles. His specialty was the music of 20th century composer Max Reger. Glen did a master thesis on Reger's organ works, an example of the expressionist style of artistic music. While at Trenton State, Glen was one of the founding members of the ensemble performance group known as Collegium Musicum. During this time, Glen also became organist at the Jewish Performing Temple Beth El in Somerville, New Jersey. Glen worked as organist for 15 years in this temple. When he began, his wife was also hired as cantor. They were taught Hebrew music by John Laurie, professor of law history at Rutgers University in New Brunswick, New Jersey, who was a member of Temple Beth El. After his wife finished her time as cantor, Glen worked with several other cantors in preparing the music for all of the Sabbat services as well as bar and bat mitzvahs. As part of the preparation for the special Jewish High Holy Days, Glen traveled to Union Theological Seminary in New York City to study and rehearse with cantors in their music. Glen had a special relationship with several of the rabbis and learned much about the Jewish religion and was a recipient of several fine videos of the Torah and other Jewish holy books from these rabbis. He enjoyed working with all the staff of the temple and other musicians who came to be part of the holy tile music. Glen contributed to the family forum sessions with the study representing the ancient Chinese pre-Confucian text known as Yi Jing or Book of Changes. Glen then continued to further his education by enrolling in the New Brunswick Theological Seminary in New Brunswick, New Jersey. There he studied in a program of theological studies to become pastor in the Reformed Church of America. That is the oldest seminary in the United States. While there, he also studied classical literature at Rutgers University, which is right across the street from the seminary. At that seminary, Glen specialized in Jungian psychology and the theology of the great Russian thinker Nicholas Berdyaev. He was also an organist in the chapel during those services also. All right, and then it said here, During these studies, he again presented programs in pre-Confucian classics. He was ordained in that year into the Reformed Church of America and the United States of Christ and the United Church of Christ. The rabbi at the Temple Bethel also ordained Glen during that ceremony as an official Jewish teacher. This was a great distinction that Glen was honored especially. He maintains to this day a profound respect for the Jewish heritage and the roots therein of Christianity. After graduating from seminary, Glen served as pastor of the Orangeville, Pennsylvania, where he was responsible for 3 churches in the Orangeville Charge. He wrote and delivered 3 sermons each week, did all services, weddings, funerals, baptism, and Holy Communion. He also ran several Bible study courses, as well as providing occasional music as special additions to the services. He also administered along with the consistory of all 3 churches. While in the Orangeville Charge, Glen became also a certified pastor of the Presbyterian Church. Then, in 1983, he served as pastor in the New Jersey Shore Community Reformed Church in Keyport, New Jersey. There he enjoyed all the church services, activities, special study groups, focus on Bible study. He then continued his pastoral service in the United Church of Christ in Milltown, New Jersey, where he was assistant pastor to a very large church and youth director for the main pastor of all churches of youth. He held the responsibility for directing all youth education activities for the church. Glen and Patricia had 4 children, daughter Laura, Lisa, Julie, and a son, Michael. One of their daughters, Julie, had suffered from a medical practice issue that left her on kidney dialysis. While serving in Milltown, it was that her condition became serious and Glen had to spend more time with her. It was in 1988 that Glen had to limit his professional work to spend more time caring for her at home on the dialysis equipment that he had been trained in at the hospital. Therefore, he stopped his pastoral work in Milltown churches. Glen took the position of Assistant Behavioral Control Manager at the Devereaux Institute for Disturbed and Violent Youth in Chester, New Jersey. This gave him more time to take care of Julie and also provided a good income. He then moved on to being an assistant supplier at RecTrac Corporation in New Brunswick, New Jersey, specializing in musical tapes and CDs for the sales staffs and store promotional displays. Then, in 1989, Glen became the organist for St. James Lutheran Church in Phillipsburg, New Jersey, under the pastor Gerald Kramer, which he served for almost 10 years, directing choirs and leading all the choral music and providing organ music for all services and special holiday concerts, as well as the usual weddings, funerals, Holy Communion services. He also continued to give private piano and organ lessons. During this time, Glen's daughter's health was declining, and his wife, Patricia, had been diagnosed with multiple sclerosis. In the early 1990s, Glen's daughter died of kidney failure. As soon as this happened, his wife's MS became progressively worse. She was at that time teaching music in a public school in New Brunswick, New Jersey. It soon became apparent to her that she could not continue her teachings without help because her walking was becoming more difficult and she was facing the use of a wheelchair. Glen and Patricia decided on a plan. Glen applied to be Patricia's personal health aide through the United Cerebral Palsy Center in Hackettstown, New Jersey. His application was accepted, and he was employed by them to be her official health aide. Glen then spent every day transporting her to school setting up her wheelchair, taking her to and fro from classes, writing her lesson plans, taking her to meetings, playing for all her choirs, rehearsals, and school concerts, and handling all the media equipment as needed for the classroom. In addition, he prepared copied lessons for classes, arranged for choral sheets of music to be ready, and wrote on the blackboard when needed. Glen worked in this capacity from 1992 to 1998. At that time, his wife retired from her school position because of her failing health. Then Glen continued to care for his wife at home, doing all that was necessary to maintain her conditions as much as was possible until she passed away in 2002. During the time he was caring for her, he was bitten by a deer tick. He was not aware then that he was bitten, but saw a rash and did not notice symptoms at the time. It was not until the advanced symptoms of Lyme disease started to appear that he had to seek medical help. In spite of his diagnosis with Lyme, he continued to care for his wife each day until her death. After her passing away, Glen did his best to treat Lyme parasites with what came to his infection. It was part of his plan that he should continue to be creative as much as possible, and he so began to write poetry. During the 1904 through 2004-2007 series of his poems had been published in local New Jersey papers, as well as in the bi-monthly newsletter of the Michigan Lyme Disease Association called Tick Talk. He also responded to an invitation to submit his lone Lyme disease story for publication. His story was accepted and now appears in the book Confronting Lyme Disease, What Patient's Story Tells Us, edited by Pris Jurgis and Rita Stanley. Two of his poems appear along with his story. His Lyme experience was also published in another large book dealing with many patients in the USA and other countries. Some of his poetry also appears in that book. Glen continued to write poems and is also writing a much more complete version of his story for later publication. That has now been published, as you will see below in this next paragraph. Now Glen works for the police department in High Breeze, New Jersey as a police crossing guard for school children, and he volunteers by playing the piano for the residents of the Country Arts Care Center in Pittsdown, New Jersey. Glen also has published essays on religion, spirituality, Oriental subjects in New Jersey papers. He continued to study music, religion, philosophy, Eastern spirituality, especially the ancient Yi Jing I Ching Book of Changes. Glen continues to make progress in writing a large book on the I Ching, which is called The House of Opposites. He eventually will want this published. Glen has also finished a book on the relationship between the I Ching and the Bible. Glen has many books on the Tao Te Ching. Among these are many translations, some with excellent commentaries and excellent illustrations. In New Jersey in 1912, Glen had a head trauma where his head and legs were filled with blood clots. He was taken to a special care hospital where the doctors did not expect him to live. His family came to visit him. Remarkably, he did gain consciousness. He spent 2 years in slow recovery, but his speech, memory, mobility, and recognition of others were mostly destroyed. Out of the hospital, he was taken to a relative's home for continual care. Then Glen was brought to the Pines here in Vermont, for he was in a wheelchair. Between then and now, he can walk again, write again, think again, and communicate again. Glen now has a large collection of Bibles and theological books. I am also using the Bullinger Companion Bible that has contemporary and analytic works, and a section in the back with 189 appendices. This kind of reading and study has added to his recovery, and he finds this also a great healing agent. I am now in full recovery and doing very well. I will add here, which is not in the biography, by my Finis Dake Bible reads a great deal from the Bullinger book, and a lot of the Bullinger book is a great influence on the Dake Bible. Glen can now walk in the mall with a cane, and there is a lady who lives here at the Pines on the 3rd floor. There was an immediate bonding between them. After visiting her, we moved in together in my apartment and have been together there ever since. We both had difficult marriages, and because of that, our bonding has helped both of us to overcome some of those physical and psychological damage of both of the experiences. Her name is Anne Hill. Her husband no longer lives. She is mostly German descent because her maiden name is Raeder, R-A-E-D-E-R. I work also on the technology for computers and radios and Bluetooth, which have also been one of my great enjoyments. My son Mike is legally blind, but has done great work on his eyes in Florida and is improving greatly. I am also very pleased to meet so many people here in the Pines that I enjoy talking with. He is thankful for each and every moment of life. Glen is also taking each day as a gift, each moment as a miracle. Here is a brief note. Glen has studied and practiced the Gurdjieff work for many years. He has many books by Ouspensky, Gurdjieff, and Maurice Nicole. Glen has also copies of the Quran, some commentaries, and some with no commentaries. I also have the Book of Life of Muhammad, Quran, a book that I'm using now, Quran commentary in Bible terms by Samuel Ross. The Quran and the Bible by Gabe Reynolds, and the Quran and the Bible subtext by the same author. The Life of Muhammad by Muhammad Hassan Yakal. The Glorious Quran translated by Marmaduke Pickthall. The Quran interpreted by A.J. Arbery, which is considered the best English translation. The Clear Quran by Dr. Mustafa Khatak. The Holy Quran with English translations and commentary with a long commentary by Mullah Muhammad Ali. The Noble Quran with an English language by Dr. Muhammad Musa Khan, which you read from right to left pages, and the Study Quran by Yasser Mosam Nasa. I also have 5 volumes of the English translation of Surah al-Muhammad Hadath. I also have 5 Amazon Fire tablets and 3 Google Galaxy tablets. Community and personal activities and interest: Master Mason, Shriner, American Guild of Organists, American Musicological Association, Torch Club in Pennsylvania, keyboard and vocal recitals and entertainment and benefit programs, lectures and programs in Jewish Christian traditions, seminars in pre-Confucian Chinese literature, musical compositions, computer and internet research, and web page design. Glen has also been doing videos and pictures on many subjects on YouTube. To watch those videos, go to YouTube search bar and type Glen Wolfson, or follow the link below, which I won't read to you right now. It is Glen Roy's hope that this brief little essay will make all of you who will consider associating with him more informed as to his background and experience, and hopefully will make those who are thinking of keeping his company more comfortable. I am thankful for all my friends and teachers, and look to the Lord, the highest power of all, to sustain him in this life and the afterlife. I thank all who read this and wish them a blessed and powerful life. This is the latest edition. I began writing this in 7/2/22. This page was finished on 1/3/25.